news of President Trump's diagnosis spread quickly around the world, many people woke up to the headline that America's leader has contracted the coronavirus. Foreign leaders have been sending President Trump well wishes. To talk more about how people around the world are reacting to this news, we have CBS News foreign correspondent Charlie D'Agata in London. Charlie, great to have you with us. So what kinds of messages are people around the world sending to President Trump?
Well, Tanya, by and large, the response has been overly positive. Among the global reactions here in the UK, British Prime Minister Boris Johnson wished the President and the First Lady best wishes for a speedy recovery, as you pointed out. He is a COVID survivor himself and suffered very badly from the infection before recovering. Russian President Vladimir Putin sent a direct message to the President. This was released by the Kremlin, saying, "I hope your inherent vitality, good spirits, and optimism help you cope with this dangerous virus." And the director of the World Health Organization started his briefing today wishing well for the couple, saying, "Our prayers are with them." We'll remember, it wasn't that long ago, President Trump had fallen out with the WHO over the handling of the COVID crisis. So by and large, positive reactions and reinforcement from the international community for the President and the First Lady.
And of course, as we mentioned earlier, President Trump is not the first world leader to contract the coronavirus, and he's not the only leader to play it down. Boris Johnson and Bolsonaro also dismissed the virus early on. How did they fare with the disease, respectively, and how did it change their views on the pandemic, if at all?
Yeah, well, it was interesting seeing Boris Johnson speak just then. I was here when he fell ill, and he was downplaying the seriousness of COVID from the beginning. And arguably the most important global figures who have tested positive for COVID were Prime Minister Boris Johnson and the Brazilian President Jair Bolsonaro. But it gives some insight as to how this can affect two people differently, two countries differently. Bolsonaro had a mild case, and in the past had even dismissed COVID as a little flu. It was a much different case entirely for Boris Johnson, who now readily admits that it was hard to believe that in just a few days his health had deteriorated so badly to the extent where hospital staff and his own staff were working out contingency plans if he were to succumb to the virus. Again, he said he had mild symptoms in the early days. It was his staff that sent him to the hospital, and he said very quickly he spent more than a week in intensive care. For a while, it was thought he might even have to be put on a ventilator. He even told President Trump afterward it was touch and go for some time. He admitted that being overweight did not help. In fact, he kind of launched a sort of campaign here in the UK, especially for older people, to lose weight in order to better their chances should they catch COVID. And when he tested positive, we have to point this out. Yes, he's overweight, but he's also 19 years younger than President Trump.
And so, Charlie, how did that then influence his outlook on the virus publicly?
Well, it's an interesting question, Tanya, because, of course, publicly, being a victim himself and being profoundly affected by COVID, he was ready to go out there and start pushing for stronger rules, like everybody wearing a mask, social distancing, calling off the schools for some time. So he went at it. But if you look at whether or not the British public was supporting Boris Johnson before he fell ill, or whether they were supporting him more afterward, not necessarily. It sort of coincided with the seriousness of it. We have to remember that Boris Johnson fell ill a number of months ago when the graph was on the up. And as soon as they put the restrictions in place, like the masks, like closing down schools, essentially a national lockdown of a kind that the United States hasn't seen nationally. It was much stricter here for a certain number of weeks. The public was already behind that. So yes, of course, they were sympathetic with this figure who had a profound effect from COVID himself, a very personal effect. I mean, he had a baby at the time over that course of time as well. So yes, there were a lot more people supporting him on a personal level, but politically they were already behind him because they were witnessing for themselves, not just the Prime Minister, but their friends, their family, their loved ones were also coming down with COVID.
So interesting. Well, Charlie D'Agata, thank you so much for that international perspective.
Shalom. Shalom. Well, foremost, I want to give all praise to Yahweh, Bashem, Yahushai, Bashem, Rakadash. Salutation to the elders and apostles of GMS groups who want to like teach 100% truth. Shalom, Barakatham to them. Double honors to the elders and apostles of GMS and ones that like teach 100% truth. Shalom, Barakatham. And foremost, give all praise to Yahweh, Bashem, Yahushai, Bashem, Rakadash. That was a CBS video a little earlier talking about the world leaders wishing a speedy recovery to Donald Trump and his wife because they contracted the COVID virus. And Donald Trump a little while ago was taken to Walter Reed Medical Center by Marine One to receive treatment, begin his treatment. So I'm going to go to a few verses. I'll start with I'm going to go to Job. Go to Job 5 and 12. He disappointed the devices of the crafty so that their hands cannot perform their enterprises. Pretty much their desires and what they want to do, certain things. Their agenda, for example, and different things. Related to this, there's a brother in one of his other videos talking about whether, talking about the is there something more behind that relating to this situation, at least from the optics? And that's a question mark there. So we're going back to that verse. He disappointed the device. That's what the Lord is going to do. He's going to disappoint the devices of the crafty, which are the wicked. So anything they're going to try to implement relating to their endeavors or their device, their endeavors or the things they desire to do, is not going to come to pretty much, it's not going to be fulfilled. It's not going to be fulfilled completely. Number 13, he taketh the wise in their own craftiness and the counsel of the froward. The froward represents someone who's contrary or someone who's difficult to get along with, and is carried headlong. And headlong represents something that's hurried or hastened. So all the craftiness in their plans to implement, exercise, and execute is not going to come to no avail. Let's go to we'll go to James 1 and 14. This is James 1 and 14. But every man is tempted when he is drawn away of his own lust and enticed. So the desires, the temptation, being tempted, and the desires ultimately, which is going to lead to 15. And when they have conceived is pretty much something that's going to be executed or planned out. And when lust have conceived, it bringeth forth sin. And in sin, when it is finished, it bringeth forth death. So it's stages. First is the temptations, being tempted, the lust and desires, which ultimately leads to the action, which is going to lead to in sin, and the final stage of that relates to pretty much death. That's the final stage of that. I'm going to go to Job 15th chapter. And that verse there is for pretty much the whole population of people. You know what I mean? And we all, as a species of humans, we all, through this flesh and carnal, we struggle with different things. You know what I mean? Because we in this carnal covering or vessel, you know what I mean, and it's weak. So we're gonna struggle, you know what I mean, with the battles of different temptations and sins. Let's go to Job 15:2. Should a wise man utter vain knowledge? Vain knowledge is something pretty much that's is vanity, vainglory, something that's unfruitful, unprofitable, and is asking a question. No, you know what I mean? Because a wise man is going to be circumspect. He's going to be wise. Let me get a verse. Be circumspect them not as fools, but as wise, redeeming the times because they're evil. And that's the kind of time the wise need to be circumspect because they need to be aware and awakened and alert to certain things that's going on. You know what I mean? So they don't need to be as fools. Fools are, pretty much blinded by their own foolishness, man. So they need a wise man that's going to be have discretion, discernment, and be wise, because redeeming the times they are evil, because the times we're in are very evil, man. A lot of things is going on. And his belly with the eastward wind. That wind is fierce and is fast. But going to his belly, the inward parts relating to his heart and his mind. And basically, it's going to be that vain knowledge is going to be unfruitful, unprofitable, infectious in a negative way. Let's go to 15 and 14. 15 and Shalakia 35. They conceive mischief. This is 15 Job and 35. They conceive mischief and bring it forth vanity, and in their belly prepare deceit. So they conceive the mischief, which means they plan and execute, and the vanity is part of that characteristic relating to the wicked. And their belly they prepare deceit to deceive others, but to no avail, because ultimately it's going to be to their own. It's going to be to their own demise. So whatever they plan and put out is going to backfire and come back on them. There was a verse. What was that verse at? I'm going to read something in Psalms. Psalms of 7 and 15. He made a pit and diggeth it, and is fallen into the ditch which he had made. So he made a ditch, a pit for in this case the righteous to fall in, or his adversary to fall in. But ultimately he's going to fall into it, man. So it's going to come back on him. So whatever he devised, he planned, and try to execute among the righteous, or his adversary, is going to ultimately be to his own demise. It's going to come back on his head, as it says in Scripture. And this is just a few verses. And 16. I'll finish up with 16. I'm going to do 15 and 16. I'll read it again. He made a pit and dig it, and he falleth into the ditch which he had made. So his own trap he designed, the trap he designed for the others, he's going to fall into. His mischief shall return upon his own head, and his violence dealing shall come down upon his own pate. So it's going to come back on him. You know what I mean? And this relates to the wicked. So whatever they devise and implement is going to, they're going to be disappointed, because it's not going to come to, it's not going to come into fruition, or it's not going to be effective. And that being said, this was just a few verses relating to that video. You know, and that, in matter of speaking, there's more than this. There's more to involve in this, the situation related to the president getting COVID virus. The timing of it is very suspect and questionable, and a lot of things is very suspect and questionable optically. And that being said, give all praise to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahshua, Ba'ashem Rakadash, the Water Shalom. Thank you for listening.